Hey everyone, welcome back to new. In this video, we're going to delete our data using JPA repository. All right, let's get started. To create a Springboot project, and we need to add some dependencies over there. All right. So now, what I'm going to do is, so we'll open a browser over here. Okay. So here I have my browser. What we can do is, I want you guys to open Spring Initializer. So just type as, or if you have already the project, so then it's no problem. And if you're creating a project for the first time, so you can go for Spring Initializer. And here I'm in the Spring Initializer right now, so I'll just click on the Spring Initializer, and you can give your the name which you want for your project, so you can define over here. So in my case, I'm doing a Java project, so that's why the language I have selected as Java. And it's not a Gradle, so Gradle Groovy and Gradle Kotlin is used for mobile application. So right now we are doing a Maven project, so that's why I mean the web application, so I'm selecting as Maven. All right. So now next, so here you need to specify your package name. So I'm going to give a package name as com.backend. So I'm not going to build the entire application, I'm just showing an operation how we can able to uh, do it. All right, so com.backend, and here I'm going to give the project name as a backend over here, and this is going to I'm going to keep it the same. And here, instead of com.backend.backend, I'm just going to keep as com.backend. That's all, very simple. All right, so now you can specify whichever you want, either jar or var, whatever you want, and select the Java which you need. And next we are going to add the dependency. I hope you guys are clear with this particular portion. And next we are going to add our dependencies. The first dependency which I'm going to add as, so just type as web, we can see Spring Web over here, web dependencies. So I'm going to select this one. Okay, Spring Web. And the second one I need is DevTools. So why DevTools? Because it doesn't require to restart the application every time whenever you make any changes in your application. So for that reason, if you can see here, there is something called live reload. So when you save the file, automatically this restarts our application. So that's why Springboot DevTools. So not related to the coding part, but this is related to for the development environment or development experience, which is mentioned over here. Enhanced development experience. So I'm going to select this one. And the next one we need is JPA repository. So we are going to save the data using JPA, right? So that's why Spring Data JPA. All right. So next one we need a MySQL connector. Okay, so I'm going to take MySQL driver because we're going to connect to our database, right? So for that reason, I'm going to select this. Okay, so all our dependency is done. So the next step, what we're going to do, we'll just click on this generate. So this is going to download a zip file. Okay, this is going to download a zip file over here, and we'll extract that zip file, and then we are going to import it in our Eclipse or Spring Suite ID. So here is our backend which we downloaded just now. I'm going to extract this like this. Okay, so it's been extracted over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go for my Eclipse ID over here and file, or you can just click a right button here as well, anything is fine. Click on import, and here you need to search for Maven. Okay, Maven. So when you search for Maven, you will get something like this. So since the project has been initialized in a Spring Initializer itself, so that's why it is considered as an existing project, but it's a new one. So select existing Maven projects, click on next, and next will import or will select where our folder is saved. In our case, or in my case, it's saved in the download folder. I'll go to download folder over here, backend, just click on this one and select folder. All right, so here we got like something like this. So when I click on finish, if you see bottom right side, it is showing as importing Maven projects. So this will take some time, and here we can able to see our application is getting loaded. If you see, there are two folders and 4 files. When the import gets completed, you can see a more number of folders and files work here. So this will take some time to download and update the project. So in the meantime, what we are going to do means we are going to create a database in the database section. Okay, so if you have already the database and the table, you can follow in your case. But if you want to create from the scratch, means you can. So I'm using MySQL Workbench over here to create a database. And if you are following with H2 database or a lightweight database, means it is going to be the same. Yes, it's all about the database connection which we are going to give in application.properties file. Okay, so here we have SQL or MySQL Workbench which is being opened right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to close all these files which has been already opened. So I've been using for different files over there. And next, now I'm going to create a database, a new database. So what I can do, here there is an icon directly to create a database, or what we'll do, we'll write a query for that. Okay, that is going to be very nice. So create a database, and you need to specify the database name. So as of now, I'm going to give the database name as backend. Okay, backend. All right, so run this, and here the left side you can able to see. Okay, if it is not, see here you can see it's not been created yet. So it's been created but it's not been refreshed. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'll just click a right button, refresh all. Here I can able to see my backend, and I'm going to keep it as the default. And here we have our database got created. So now we are going to create a new table over here. Let's say I'm going to create a table name. You can create any table you want, just you're trying to save the data in the database, right? If you have already your own table, you can follow with that. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to create a table name called customer. I'm going to store the customer data inside a table. So the table name which I'm going to give here is customer. So probably it's not so visible because the icons here, it is very small. I don't know how I can make able to increase this, but we have a feature in YouTube, or in the video you can just zoom it and you can able to see that. All right, so customer, and so the column name. And first of all, before I pursue with this, if you are new to our channel, please subscribe it. And most of them are visiting our channel. 97% people are not subscribing it. So please do subscribe so that I'll get motivated to make a many number of videos, and I can bring a lot of content to you in the IT industry part. All right. Okay. So let's give first one. I need an ID. So which is going to be a customer ID, and this is going to be a primary key and a not none, and also I'm going to give it as an auto increment. All right. So the next one, I'm going to give customer name. Customer name. Okay, so varchar, that's fine. And here the next one, I'm going to give date of birth, like this, date of birth. I hope spelling is correct. PI. Okay, even for me also it is very small. All right, the next we are going to give as a phone, and this I'm going to give it as int. And next one, after phone we'll take it as the email, and then address. And next we're going to take a username and a password. Just we'll take it. Okay, username and a password. All right, so if you're already working on a project, means there would be some different columns, but just try to map this columns with your case. All right, the main intention is we need to the data. The main intention is the data. So I'm just clicking on apply, and I click on apply. Okay, I will click on finish. All right, okay, so here, so now the first thing what I do is, first I'll insert a data inside this table. Okay, I'll insert some data. Let's say insert into customer values. uh okay, no problem. So we'll add it later, or it's better to add one data over here. Okay, inside values, so first one is 1, and next we have a customer name. I'm going to give customer name as Abhinaya. The next one, date of birth, let's say 13. Oh, we need to give it in the quotes, 13 6 1999. And next we have the phone number. I'm going to give 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. The next one, we have an email ID, abhi at mail.com. And next one, we have address, Bangalore, or you can give any address you want, just sample data. Abhinaya is the username, and the password I'm going to give as 1234. All right, so here the data been stored. If I do select star from customer, you can see one data has been inserted. All right, so now our application has been imported. Right now it's been successful, and if I expand this now, you can see many folders has been created. You can, before it was only 2, so now we can see a lot more. But yes, all right, so I hope everyone is clear till here. All right, okay, good. So here the first thing what I'm going to do, I'm going to expand this source main Java folder over here, and you can able to see com.backend. All right, so I'm going to create few more packages over here. Okay, so like this, the first one is going to be just select source main Java new and go for package. So I'm going to give the package name as this has to be perfect, so this has to match for this, otherwise you will get an issue. So com dot backend, dot I'm going to give entity. Okay, so I'm going to copy this package because I want this to use it later. So entity, so entity folder or entity package where we're going to store all our models or entity. All right, so entity is done. So next one, I'm going to create one more package, com.backend.controller. All right, so where this is our main controller where we are going to create the APIs. And the next one, we are going to create a repository. Okay, so here we import a JPA repository in this particular package. And the last one, we are going to use the service where we want to write all the service, right? So that is what it is, service. All right, so I have created all the 4 packages, and the next step what we are going to do is we'll go for this application.property file. All right, so here go for source main Java, expand, click on application.properties. So here we are going to give the a backend connection over here. Okay, so we are going to give the backend connection. See, by default, or I'm using MySQL Workbench, so everything is going to be the same, and only the driver name and the driver name is going to be different, and the username and password is going to be different based on your application. Okay, so now let's do that. The first one what we are going to do is spring dot data source dot url is equal to, here the default one for MySQL Workbench. So suppose if you are using Oracle or in Microsoft or Oracle SQL Developer or H2 database, which is a lightweight database, if you are using, the driver name is different, but everything is going to be the, whatever you are seeing, spring.data source.url, that is going to be the same, just the driver name is going to be different. So suppose if you are using MySQL Workbench, which I am using right now over here, which is this one, so then you need to follow this one. Okay, so JDBC Java database connection colon MySQL colon / then localhost It is a local host, right? So local host and colon. By default, your MySQL Workbench will run at the port number 3306. So that's what it is. Localhost 3306 /. Then you need to give your database name. So what was the database which we created in our MySQL Workbench? It was backend, right? So it was the backend, the same name. All right. So backend and a question mark. I'm not going to use SSL certificate, so that's why I use SSL is equal to false. So this is our driver name which you're going to give. All right, so this is a connection. Then the next one, you're going to give the MySQL Workbench username and the password. So spring dot data source, spring dot data source dot username. Username is equal to root. In my case it is root. So next one, same, spring dot data source, data source dot password is equal to, in my SQL Workbench password is this one, so that's why. In your case it will be different if you have give a different password means. So this is what it is. So now the next step, we are going to start the application. So just select the backend and we need to check whether all our dependency has been correctly installed or not. So select it, run as Java application or Springboot application. Okay, and this will take some time, we need to wait for it. See, before okay, here you need to select your backend application. So where you have backend, here I have backend application com.backend. So just click on OK. All right, so if you find any issues, we need to understand and we need to fix that. Okay, all right, so let's see. Okay, cool. So if you see here, started backend application. So what I'm going to do, and then the port number is 8080, right? So I'm going to open this com.backend application.java. Here I'm going to write one print statement which says, I mean, for our convenience, so I'm writing this application cc. I'm just saving this file. I'm not going to start the application. The saved. See the bottom here in the console, it reloaded automatically. If I slide this to left side, you can able to see that printed statement which we just added. Now application started. So our application is set to get started for our coding. All right, cool. All right, so now we are going to create all the files which is required for us to build this or to complete this operation. The first one, I am going to create a customer controller. All right, so where we are going to create the API work here, customer controller. All right, so in the com.backend.controller package. All right, so customer controller is the first Java file which we are creating, and inside entity we are going to create the customer model or the entity over here. So customer, and this has to be the same name whatever your table name is in the database. All right, customer. Okay, so this has to be same name, and here we are going to use the repository where we are going to use the JPA repository. We are going to import the, or we are going to implement the JPA repository with this particular package. So here I'm going to give this customer repository. All right, so here it's got created. Oh, I just made a mistake, I'm extremely sorry. I'm going to delete this particular file. We need to create an interface. By mistake I created a Java. So select this com.backend.repository and right button and go for new, go for interface. So customer repository is the file name, just click on finish. So here a interface has been created. The next one, we are going to create a service new, and what we would need, we need a class this is going to be customer service. All right, so just click on finish. All right, so there are few things you need to do it by default. So first one is going to be controller. Just go for the controller over here, and in the controller you need to add an annotation over here, which is at rest controller. So I'll tell you the reason why we are adding this. Just import it. Okay, so how your Springboot application or your job application is going to understand that this is a controller, and here we are going to create our APIs. How it is going to understand? So to make our Springboot application understand that this is our controller, you come here and pick the APIs. So that's why we are giving the annotation as REST controller, or you can also specify the just controller itself. That's also fine. I'm going to use a REST controller. Okay. The next one is going to be our customer.java file. Okay, so here whatever the fields we created in your database or the customer table like ID, customer name, date of birth, everything, all this we have to write it over here. Okay, so there are a few things. First one, you need to do an annotation that this is an entity. So this particular entity or the model is has to be same as in your database table, and we need to mention that this is our entity. We need to tell our Springboot application that this is our entity, take the values from here. So we need to do an annotation as entity. That's all. Done. Cool. The next one, we are going to include all the fields. The first one we had in our database was ID, so that's why it's of type integer, so int ID. Okay, next one, string, string customer name here, right? Customer name, date of birth, phone. Next we have a date of birth and phone. So string date of birth. Next we have phone, which is of type integer, phone. Next, what we have next? Email, address, username, password. So string email, string address, string username, and string password. Got it? So here, whatever we have in our database columns, same way we have created all the values over here. The next thing, we need getters and setters for this. So just click a right button over here and source, go for generate getters and setters. Okay, because how you go, okay, I'll show you. So just select all, click on generate. So what does this mean is, whenever you want to set a value for an ID or whenever you want to set a value for customer name, so we don't call this particular variable, we call this method, which is set customer name. Okay, so this is how you're going to set the name for a customer name or a customer name variable. When you want to get the name, we use get customer name method. So for that's why we need getters and setters. And here if you see at the console, we are getting some errors. So that's because error creating bean with an entity manager. So that's because, see, this is an entity and it has to be some a ID and generated values. So here we have gave this as auto increment, right? The ID we have gave as auto increment while creating the table. If I'll show you here again, see here we have created an created as auto increment. So for that reason, we are going to make this as this is our ID mentioned as ID annotation, import it. The next one is generated value. So this is going to be an auto increment. So for that's why generated value strategy is equal to generation type dot identity. Okay, so here just import this That's all. Okay, so generated type, generated value has been imported, and if I scroll down, see now you are not getting any errors at the console, right? So application started without any issues. So controller annotation is done, customer.java is done. So now we go for customer repository. All right. So the customer repository, what we are going to do is, so we're going to import the JPA repository over here. All right. So the JPA repository. So what we can do over here is just make as extends. Oh, oops. Extends JPA repository, and this will take two parameters. The first parameter I am going to give, what type of JPA repository is this? This has to be an entity of type. Which entity of type? We have created an entity type called customer. So I am performing an action for customer entity type. So that's why I'm going to give this as customer, and you'll get an error. Just hover your mouse over here like this, get an option to import it. So it's been imported, and if you see the import, it's been imported from com.backend.entity. So com.backend.entity is this one. We have customer, the customer type, and here we are going to fetch, or the unique thing over here in all this is id. Id is going to be the primary key, and that is going to be an auto generated value and auto incremented value as well. So whenever we want to do pick the unique customer data, means we will pick with their IDs. So IDs of type integer, right, in the database which we have given. So that's why we're going to give an integer. So done. All right, so the repository file is also done. So now we are going to go for customer service. Okay, so customer service, what we are going to do is very simple. Now it's very simple. So in the customer service.java, we need to specify, or we need to make our Springboot application or our Java application to understand that this is our service. Whatever the code you are going to execute, come and execute from here. So for that reason, at service, import it, done. So here we have specified all the annotations or all the functionalities which needs to be done for all the different files. So now your application, our complete application is set. So we can go ahead and do our operations. Okay. So the operation which we are going to do now is we are going to delete the customer based on his username. We can also use based on the ID, based on the phone number, whatever you want. I'm showing one method how we can able to delete it based on his username or an ID. I'll show you that. Okay, and also I'll give you the information more. See here in the customer repository we have imported JPA repository. So we are, whatever we are doing with the JPA. So that's why I'm going to take this, and I'm going to create an object of this in customer service. So private customer repository, customer repo. Okay, so make this as auto wire tool, and just hover your mouse and you'll get an option to import this. So just import it. All right, so it's been imported. So now next thing, we are going to write a method public. Let's say you're not going to delete return anything, so public void delete customer based on what you're going to delete, based on the username, string username. Okay, all right. So now how are we going to delete? So from customer repo, this is an object, right? So customer repo dot delete let's say you want to delete by okay, delete customer entity by a username. Will it take? Okay, so let's give an ID instead of username. So int customer ID, and we are going to pass this. So customer repo dot delete by ID delete by id, we are going to pass the id over here. So we are deleting the data based on the id over here because we have an inbuilt method in the JPA repository, the same method which we are using right now. Alright, so here it's done. So let's handle this. How we gonna handle this? Handle this with try and catch block. Okay, so now let's write our catch exception. What are the exception is going to come? It is going to catch over here. Now go to write print statement, error at deleting customer. Okay, now here we'll print that error plus e. Then what are the statement which we are written, right, to delete the customer based on his id, that we are going to put inside try block. So here again we are going to write the print statement says customer deleted successfully. Got it? So just save this. So here our method is done. That's all. So now we are going to create an API for this to delete this customer. Alright. So now what we are going to do, let's go back to the controller over here, customer controller, and we are going to create an object of customer service over here because we need to call this method, right? So that's why. So private, private customer service is an object, and just hover your mouse and import it, so that won't be any issue at auto wire. Okay, auto wire. All right, so auto wire, the reason because you are connecting from controller to your service, so that's why it's like a wire connecting there. And here we're going to write a method. So public, we are not going to return anything. Public void delete customer. So as you know, we are deleting the customer based on the customer id. So that's why we will be doing, or we'll be taking an argument over here like this, path variable. I'll tell you what is my path variable. I'll explain it to you why I'm mentioning as path variable instead of requesting the body. Okay, so path variable, I'm going to take it as an id over here. So now from this customer service, I'm going to call that method customer service dot delete customer. So whatever the id here we are getting, that I'm passing it over here. So what is my path variable? So let me write the API, then you'll come to know what is it. So the API is a delete mapping because we are deleting the data, right? So that's why it is delete mapping. And the API which I'm going to give is, let's say, delete customer is the API name, and with this it's a path, right? So with this path I'm going to give an ID of a customer like this. The same ID will come over here, the same ID will be passed over here, the same ID be executed over here. With that same ID, the customer data is going to be deleted. Understood? So let's save the data, and here the delete mapping, there's an issue, just import this and then there would be no errors. All right, so we are going to give the ID of a customer in the path, in the URL or in the endpoint. So then at the same value, we are going to pass it to our delete customer method. So just copy this. Okay, I'm just copying the delete customer API, that's all. And here we have the localhost 8080. I'm going to paste delete customer over here, and forward slash whatever the ID we give, based on that ID the customer is going to delete. So this was the previous one, I'm going to remove this, and here we are doing the delete mapping. Okay, so let's change it to delete mapping. So we need to pass an customer ID. So let's go to the database. We have 4 data: Abhinaya, Ironman, Vasu and Chris. So ID are 1 2 3 4. I want to delete the data of an Chris, so the ID is 4. So let's go to the uh, Eclipse over here. Here I'm going to clear all the console data because we have written the print statement, right? So that's why. Let's go back to our Postman, and here I'm going to give as 4 in the path. When I click on send, here you're not getting, it is not returning anything. But if you go to our Eclipse, you can see customer deleted successfully, right? So now if I go to my database, so if I run the select star from customer again, here you can see the Chris data has been deleted. Only we have 3. Let's say I want to delete the data of Iron Man 2. So let's give the 2 again. We'll do the second round of testing. 2, send the request, and here if you see again we got a one more statement saying customer deleted successfully. And if you see in the Postman, or sorry, in the database, if you do select star from customer, here you can see only 1 and 3 data are present. The 2 means the Iron Man data, and the Chris, which ID has 4, that data also been deleted, right? I hope you guys understood how it is done. All right, so if you understood, please do like this video. And if you're new to our channel, most of the people are not subscribing, they're seeing the videos, but I want you guys to please subscribe it. And I'll be bringing a lot of videos to you, and let's meet in our next video. Until then, take care, goodbye, bye bye.